before we head out?
Good.
Stand by.
Thanks.
Good morning, gentlemen. Let's start this off with a radio check. Israel, can you hear me? Barry, you got me? Ryan, you got me back there? And gentlemen, for those of you that I have not met yet, my name is Xander. I'll be leading out this track session here. Before we head out, I will ask you give 100% of your focus 100% of the time, okay? Keep it safe above all else. Keep it clean for me, but we're going to have some fun driving Corvettes on the racetrack. I personally have never seen a sad person driving a Corvette on the track. I don't know about you, but I've yet to see it. So a couple reminders here, gentlemen. Number one, always drive at a pace that you are comfortable with, okay? Just try to keep it safe, keep it clean. I want you to go home to your family safe and sound. I also don't want you to have to spend any deductible money from going off the racetrack, okay? So just keep it clean. Secondly, car spacing. 5 to 6 car lengths of space unless you're behind me. At that point, I'll manage the gap here, okay? All right, fellas, just stand by for just a moment here. All right, gentlemen, let's go ahead and pull up on that drive tab. Select the M button for manual mode. Let's taxi our way out to the track here. And gentlemen, just as we have done every other session, we're always going to start off with that warm-up lap here. So at this point in time, let's try to get focused on the track here. Let's switch those brains into track mode just as we have the cars here. And once again, gentlemen, just remember, always drive at a pace that you are comfortable with, okay? There's absolutely no sense in trying to drive over your limit or over your head. You're just going to make mistakes at that point. And I want you to keep these cars rubber side down, shiny side up on the asphalt. We're going to hang out here for just a moment. All right, gentlemen, let's go ahead and start rolling here. Let's use this warm-up lap as the time to practice that driving line as well as practice our visual scanning skill. Looking further ahead. Remember, the earlier you gather information, the more time you allow yourself to process that information here, fellas. Let's start scanning into turn number 3 now. Just nice, smooth steering input all the way down to our apex. Can accelerate off the apex out to the right, or left I should say, upshift to 4th gear, then back over to the right here. Let's make sure we run over these first 2 curbings, skip the 3rd one, and the next 3 we're going to run over to give ourselves that nice straight path down into the bowl. As we come in, we can downshift into 3rd gear. Scan out the left side here. Plan that route that you would like to take through this next section. Get in 4th gear over the launch pad there. Preferably right before you crest it, you should upshift into 4th. And right about now, we can start scanning into turn number 5. I like to start braking right at this curving on the left. Carry that brake pretty much all the way up to my first apex cone of 5. Remember, at that second apex cone, give a little bit of throttle to push yourself out to the blue turn-in cone, then some brake to balance and a downshift to 3rd. Back into 4th gear now. And start braking right about where that curving starts on the right-hand side of turn 6. Looking up towards turn 7 now, nice and early. Carry some brakes in, downshift it to 3rd. Try to use up this curving on the right-hand side. We'll get ourselves back into 4th gear as we approach turn 1. We can downshift it into 3rd gear. Now, Israel, if you are ready, sir, off the apex of 1B, we can start to build our pace, man. Remember, just drive at a level that you're comfortable with, and I'll be matching you. So if you're ready, let's start to pick it up here. Eyes up, looking towards turn 3 here, Israel. Firm brakes at the brake cone there. Eyes to the right side. Downshift it to 3rd. Alright, so Israel, you're coming down to that curving just a bit early, man. Just try to slow that initial rate of steering down. We'll carry some brakes through the chicane here. Remember, give that white cone some space, about 2 feet at minimum. Use up our curvings here, get that almost perfectly straight line down into turn 4. And as you come in, eyes out the left side here, Israel. 4th gear before the launch pad here. And once again, start your braking right at that first curving on the left. Bring it down to the inside here, bring it in. There you go. A little bit of throttle after that second apex. A little brake, downshift. Let's accelerate out. Use up the curbing here, Israel. Alright, we got 2 more laps in store for you here. Firm brakes at the brake cone there. Start scanning into turn 1 nice and early. Make one consistent and smooth arc from apex to apex here. Man, that looks pretty good there, Israel. Let's start to accelerate back onto the straight. Once again, start scanning into turn 3 nice and early. Firm brakes at the brake cone. Now follow me here, Israel. Stay wider a little bit more initially. There you go. Now start to tighten it down. There you go. That's a lot better there, Israel. Just make sure we're in 4th gear. They're going through the chicane here. Carry some brakes in. And we can start to accelerate towards turn 4. Firm brakes as we come in. Downshift to 3rd. Look out the left side here. And then Ryan, let's get a little bit more space between you and that gray car there. At least 5 to 6 car lengths. Start braking at the curbing on the left here, Israel. Bring it all the way to the inside, bring it in. Accelerate a little bit off that second apex. Now brakes and downshift here. That helps the car rotate. Bring it all the way back over to the left-hand side over here. As you brake, get downshift into third. And Israel, we got one more lap in store for you, man. Your line is looking pretty good so far, man. Keep it up. Firm brakes. Downshift into third. So I'd say get a little bit closer down to that first apex there, Israel. Start to accelerate out. Now, Israel, I want you to follow me into turn 3 here, man. Try to replicate exactly what I'm doing here. Nice smooth hands. But we're going to continue steering until we are on that curbing. So you're still just a little fast with that steering input. So just try to slow your hands down on the initial turn in there. We'll start to accelerate towards turn 4 now. Downshifting into third. And looking left here. Try to make sure the car's nice and square over the launch pad here. And right about now, Israel starts scanning into turn 5. Try to envision that driving lane you want to take through here. Down to third gear. And squeeze down. Firm brakes where that curve starts on the right hand side. And Israel, let's start to slow our pace down here, man. So I'd like everyone to join me on the right hand side. We're going to stay in the same order we currently are in. So everyone join me on the right. Israel, come up behind me. So gentlemen, we're just going to get a little space from that group in front of us, and then we'll work on our first rotation here. Israel, man, your line was looking really clean there, brother. Well done. All right, Israel, stay on the right. Barry, Ryan, join me on the left. And Israel, once that blue 116 passes you, please fall in behind it. All right, Mr. Barry, as we come off the apex of 1B, we can start to build that pace up, man. Just make sure we are driving at a pace that we're comfortable with. And Barry, let's start to pick it up here. Keep it clean for me, Barry. Let's start scanning into turn 3 here. Firm brakes at the brake cone here. Downshift it into third. Nice and smooth all the way down to our apex. Alright, so Barry, just slow down that steering foot a little bit. You got down to that curve just a little bit early, man. Use up the curbings here, Barry. Brake coming into the bowl here. Alright, so Barry, be careful not to use too much curbing there, man. You drop the tire into the dirt there. Alright, gentlemen, let's slow our pace down here. Alright, gentlemen, go ahead and join me on the right over here. Israel, join us on the right as well. Alright, folks, let's get back over to the left. I'd like you all to join me. Alright, so we are going to exit here, gentlemen. We're going to head into our hot pit lane. And Barry, we got to take a look at your car there, man. You dipped some wheels into the dirt and took out that cone, so we just got to check your car for damage here. All right, everyone. Once we get stopped here, just go ahead and place that transmission to the power. All right, gentlemen, let's pull that drive tab back up, back into manual mode here, and we will continue with our session. Just be careful, gentlemen. Remember, I said drive at a level that we're comfortable with, okay? I don't want you folks making any mistakes that you might regret here. All right, gentlemen, let's go ahead and pick it back up here. Firm brakes at our brake cone here. Getting through turn 3, Barry. Nice and smooth all the way down. All right, that looked a lot better there than the previous lap, Barry. Run over these first two curves here, carry some brakes in. Use up these curbings, but not too much there, Barry. Back down into the third gear now as we come into the bowl. So Barry, do me a favor, enter that bowl just a little bit more on the inside there. You want to be about 2 feet off of that near apex cone, the white one. Let's accelerate up here, fourth gear over the launch pad, and start getting into turn 5 here. Start braking right about when this curve starts on the left. And then bring it all the way in. Alright, so Barry, try to get down to that curbing about 2 feet sooner there. Let's start to squeeze down. start braking right where that curve starts on the right, scanning into turn 6, followed by turn 7. Get some brakes coming into 7 here. And try to use up this curbing here, Barry. That's going to give us more track to work with. Alright, let's accelerate towards turn 1 now. Firm brakes at our brake cone. Down to 3rd here. And Ryan, let's get a little bit more space in between you and Barry's car there. Firm brakes at our brake cone. Down to 3rd now. And Barry, try to get your right side tires on the curbing here. Alright, so your steering input was way too fast there, man. You gotta slow those hands down. Carry some brakes through the chicane here. Try to give yourself a nice straight pass through down into turn 4 here, Barry. That's looking a lot better there, man. Remember 4th gear before the launch pad there. We can start to accelerate towards turn 5. Carry some brakes in here. Remember, you want that digressive, that firm initial hit, followed by the digressive release to balance that car out. A little bit of brake at that turn-in cone and downshift. We can squeeze down. So you turned in a little bit early there. That's why your trajectory was looking a little bit on the wider side. Alright, gentlemen, go ahead and join me on the right-hand side of the track here. We're going to get a little space from that group in front of us. Alright, so Barry, nice improvement there. We can still go fast, man. You just got to be, very intentional about our movements here, okay? So I do appreciate that you toned it down a little bit. Just keep it clean. That's all I ask, is just keep it clean. We do have one more lap for you, Barry, and then we'll do that final rotation. Just hang tight for just another moment here. Just wait till I see that group is a little bit further ahead of us so we don't catch up with them. Alright, gentlemen, we should be good to roll here. Let's get our cars back into 3rd gear as we come into turn 1. And then off the apex of 1B, Barry, we can start to build that pace back up. Alright, Barry, if you're ready, let's start going here. Make sure we're scanning into turn 3 nice and early. And watch that hand speed there, Barry. Nice and smooth as we come in, right? Down into 3rd gear. Nice, smooth, one consistent rate. Just keep turning, keep turning, keep turning, keep turning. Alright, so Barry, you gotta find that happy medium in between too fast steering input and too slow. That was a little bit on the slower side. You were about 2 or 3 feet off that apex. Let's start to accelerate down into turn 4 now. And remember, this time, come in a little bit closer to my white cone on my left. There you go. Now let it come out to the middle. And back down to our inside here. Accelerating up over the launch pad. Upshift to 4th. Set up all the way left here. Start braking at that first curving on the left. Down to the inside. Bring it in. Bring it in. There you go. That's much better there, Barry. A little bit of brake here, followed by that downshift. Get the car pointed. We can start to accelerate. Alright, gentlemen, let's start to slow our pace here. And then once again, just go ahead and join me on the right. Alright, so Barry, stay on the right. Ryan and Israel join me on the left. Alright, Mr. Ryan, a couple reminders. Once again, just drive at a pace that you're comfortable with. I'll be matching you. And for my drivers not directly behind me, make sure we are leaving that 5 to 6 car length of space. And Ryan, if you're ready, let's start to pick up our pace here. Scanning ahead into turn 3. Plan for nice firm brakes and brake on there. Nice and smooth. Alright, so Ryan, that initial steering input too fast, man. You gotta slow those hands down. That's what caused you to get down to that curving way too soon and kind of pushed you wide on the exit. We can start to accelerate towards turn 4. Use up our curbings. Down into third gear. So Ryan, looks like you might be being a little progressive on your brake pedal. Just remember, we want to work on the digressive braking, right? That firm initial hit and a nice gentle release. Start braking right about where this curving starts on the left, looking right now through the corner. Plan that route you want to take. A little bit of throttle after that second apex here. Now some brake and a downshift. We can start to accelerate out. Use up the curbing on the kink there. That'll give you the most straightest path you possibly can have. Setting up all the way left here, turn 7. Down to third gear. Use up the curbing here, Ryan. Alright, you got like right on the edge there. Try to use a little bit more next lap. Firm brakes at the brake cone, downshift to third, scanning into turn 1. We want one consistent arc here. So try to be a little bit smoother there. That looks pretty good. You did get both of the apexes. You just went a little bit wide towards the center of the corner, which means you had to add in extra steering to get down to that apex. So, Ryan, follow me here, man. Nice smooth hand. That rate's still just a little bit fast. That was definitely better than the last lap. Just try to slow it down a little bit more on the next one. Alright, so Ryan, you were really close to that white apex cone, which caused you to miss the direct apex right after that. So remember, for that white cone, just give it about 2 feet of space. Eyes looking left here through the corner. Start to bring it in, all the way down, all the way down. Let's start scanning into turn 5 here, man. Get your eyes out the right side. Firm initial hit on the brakes, aggressive release of the pedal. Ryan, you're looking really good here in turn 5. That's a pretty solid line you're taking. Use up the curbing on the kink there. Alright Ryan, we have one more lap here. Use up this curbing, man. Bring it in. There you go. Like I said, we got one more lap. Just keep it clean. Try to replicate what I'm doing here. Down to the curbing. Maintain that steering all the way back down to the next one. Nice. Looking good, man. Notice how much smoother that feels? Alright, follow me in here, man. Nice, slow steering. So you turned in early that time. Your rate of steering looked pretty good. You just turned in about 3 feet before that turn-in cone. I do want you to use the curbing, but only when you're right next to these cones. All the way down to the inside here, man. Alright, so Ryan, what I think is going to benefit you the most is just looking a little bit further ahead. So right now, Scan out the right. See those two apex cones at turn 5? Plan that route. How you going to get down to them? Beautiful. Just try to do that in every single corner, man. Just get those eyes looking further ahead. Just visualize that line you want to take. Alright, gentlemen, let's begin to slow our pace down here. We're going to gather our group up, and then we will begin our cool down lap. So go ahead and join me on the right over here, fellas. And then, Barry, when you get on the street, please join us on the right-hand side. Alright, looks like we have everyone. Let's continue here. I want you gentlemen to try to follow this line I'm taking here. At this slow pace, it should be pretty easy to replicate what I'm doing. So for my first apex, I come out to the middle for just a moment, but I should have one consistent rate of steering through that whole corner there. And that'll set you up perfectly for turn 2, which in turn gives you a nice exit back onto this straight. Right about now, I can see my brake cone on my left, so I know when to start braking. I'll keep it in my peripheral vision. I see my blue turn in, look to the right, I see my apex, keep the blue turn in my peripherals. Now, Ryan, follow me here, man. Nice slow steering onto the curb. You're still just a little bit fast with the hands, man. You gotta slow that steering rate down. So we'll use this first curbing here for the chicane onto the second one. Stay left, stay away from the white turning, or the white near apex cone. Then back down onto these next 3 curbings. Now right here, look left, out your window. Trust your car placement, turn that head left. Start to tighten that radius down about halfway through. Ryan, that was much better there, man. Start scanning into turn 5. Now you can keep track of the blue turn in with your peripheral vision. Just get your main vision looking to the right towards where you want that car to go. Now right here, once again, look to the right side. Trust your car placement. And get that trajectory pointing straight down the road here. We're going to use up the curbing right here at the kink. Try to get a nice, as straight as possible path. Alright, gentlemen, as we come off the apex at turn 7, let's go ahead and turn on that left-hand turn signal. Please join me as we exit the track. Now, I do ask that you leave that PDR system recording until we get stopped at the building, and I ask you to shut it down. So just leave that running for a minute. I promise there's plenty of space on that SD card. We're not going to run out of space here. Overall, gentlemen, some nice improvements from the last session there. We're looking pretty clean for the most part. A couple little areas we can work on. Turn 3 is kind of tricky for everyone. Because it has kind of a later apex, people tend to want to go down to that curbing almost immediately. But if you do that, you notice it starts to push you out wide too early in that trajectory. Pretty much the definition of the early versus late class, right? Early in, early off the track. So just be a little more patient with the steering and how much steering you are adding to get into turn 3 there. At this point in time, if you'd like to, you may roll down your windows on your Corvette. If you do not choose to right now, by the time we do get parked, I recommend that you do put them down. Otherwise, by the time that you come back out to the car, it's going to be a 500 horsepower rolling oven. We're going to roll through the stop sign here, fellas. Just follow me on through.
Yes, sir.
Dude, your lines are solid, brother. Like, your lines are on point. I guess the one thing I have for you is, like, don't be afraid to get a little more aggressive on the straightaways.
Yeah, that's
just accelerate a little bit more.
Yeah.
But your lines,
cool.
Perfect, buddy.
All right, thank you.
All right, we can shut the recording off.